Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today's class is called Yoga for Lower Back Pain. Now, if you don't have lower back pain, don't think, oh, this is not the class for me. It is a very simple, very easy, and very enjoyable class. It's good not only for releasing tension and pain in the lower back, but also for the hips, for the shoulders. And it's just like a nice all-rounded stretch that you can do early in the morning or even in the evening or at any point during your day. Just make sure your stomach is not full, that you've given at least an hour rest after eating. And yeah, let's get started with it. This is actually the second video I make on yoga for lower back. So I've created a playlist and I put the two videos together in this playlist. So feel free to watch my other video. For the class, I'm gonna use two yoga bricks. If you don't have these two books that have the same kind of thickness, will do just as good. And we're not gonna use them for every single pose, just for a couple of poses perhaps. And a yoga belt or something that can make your arms longer to grab onto something. So a t-shirt or a towel or just a piece of material will do just as good. So the first pose is going to be on the back. So we're going to lie on the back. We're going to plant the feet on the floor. We're going to settle here in the pose just for a moment. Now just a couple of adjustments for this pose. It's good that you walk your shoulder blades towards each other and you move them slightly down the back, and that will help you open up your chest. And you lift ever so slightly the head of the floor and then lengthen the back of the neck, tuck the chin slightly in. Rest the head on the floor and relax. For the arms, you can rest your hands on your belly or wherever is comfortable, on your ribs perhaps, or you can rest them on the floor. If you would like a little bit more for your shoulders, you're going to turn the palms or turn the arms so that the palms turn to the sky. And separate the forearms slightly away, a little further, and let your shoulders be heavy. Close your eyes and concentrate your attention on the natural flow of your breath as it moves into your belly. So the breath actually doesn't go into your belly, but the movement of the diaphragm causes the belly to rise and fall. So just for a moment, with the eyes closed, we're going to concentrate on the rising and falling of the belly. So for this exercise, you don't actually need to breathe in any specific way. All you need to do is relax and guide your attention into the area of the abdomen. Belly rising and falling. Rising and falling. Now to continue, we're going to take one at a time the knees towards the chest. And we're going to interlace the fingers to hold your legs in place. If you can't reach your hands, you can use a belt or whatever you're using instead of that to hold the legs together. And try to keep your shoulders down towards the floor, the back of the neck nice and long. And we're going to take a couple of conscious breaths here. So now, from now on, we're going to take slightly deeper, slightly longer breaths. Inhaling deeply through the nose and exhaling softly through the nose as well. Now, if you like, you can also gently rock side to side. It will gently massage muscles in either side of your vertebrae, of your back, and maybe even your hips. Now we're going to release and we're going to plant the feet to the floor. One at a time is the easiest way. And now we're going to take a twist. So we're going to take the legs to the chest and we're going to take the legs to the right side. So we're going to lift the hips just a little and slide the hips towards the left side. And then we're going to rest the hips back on the floor and take knees to chest. Now left arm is going to extend out to the side with the palm facing up. ideally, or down if you prefer. And then we're going to take the right hand to the outside of the left thigh, and we're going to guide carefully the legs to the floor across the other side. Now what you might see it happen is, one, that your legs separate. That's okay, but with your hand you can just add a little pressure to try to get the legs closer together. Another thing that you might notice is that your shoulder blade, left shoulder blade, will lift off the floor. That's okay too. If you prefer, instead of taking the arm out, you might bend it, place your hand in your side ribs, and let the elbow be the guide, elbow guiding towards the floor. If you are flexible enough that you can take a full twist so that the shoulder blade come to the floor, then you may want to extend the arm to the side. Good. Now your neck doesn't want to hold and carry any tension, so lifting the head, lengthening the back, and resting down will be a good point to add. And you may also want to turn the head towards your left palm, or just keep it at the center. I'm going to take a couple more breaths here. Good. Now we're going to come back to center. Now the hips are on the left side of the mat. We're going to bring them back to center, and then we're going to take them to the right side. And then arm and knees to chest. The right arm extends to the side. So I'm against the wall here, so I'm not going to extend it to the side. I'm just going to rest the hand on the ribs. And then I'm going to, with the left arm, I'm going to guide the legs to the left. A slightly active pose will help you generate a better twist. Again, back of the neck long and soft. Nice, comfortable, deep breathing. Now notice that I have a little gap between my thighs. That's okay. As you hold longer the pose, you might notice that the leg comes down a little heavier, little heavier, little heavier. And then carefully coming back to center, planting the feet, and then aligning the spine with the center of your mat so that your spine is nicely straight. Now we're going to cross left leg over the right, all the way. I like to take this calf muscle slightly out of the way to get a good cross so that the knees are kind of lining up nicely one on top of the other. And then I'm going to lift the right foot off the floor. And then, again, if you can't reach, you're going to use your extension, your belt or your t-shirt. If you can, then both hands are going to wrap, or the fingers are going to wrap around the right shin. Now, you might wonder, where should I put my hand, above your left shin or below? I don't think it really matters. If you have a really good twist, it might be just as good for you to have the arm on top, but just below is also good. And then carefully, you're going to pull just a little closer. You're going to feel a nice stretch coming on the side of your thighs, more towards the hips. Back of the neck long and soft, breathing nice and deep. Carefully unlock your hands. With control, release your foot to the floor. Uncross the legs and cross the legs the other way. Nicely crossed. Lift your foot and hold your shin. If you can't reach your shin, you can also hold your hamstring. It's just as good. Or, like I said, you can use your extension. So what I do is I lift so I get a good grip. And then very gently pull, and then the shoulders rest. The head rests. Close your eyes. And breathe consciously. Notice that in this pose, the legs pressing against the abdomen makes it a little more difficult for the belly to expand. So we're going to try to expand on the side of the ribs, each side of the ribs. And then, with control, we're going to release the feet back to the floor. We're going to lift, and then we're going to, with the help of the legs, we're going to swing ourselves, back to sit. Good. Now this next pose, I call it the 90-90. So I'm going to explain it as seen from the front. So imagine I am mirroring you. So you take your right leg and you cross it like so. So your front knee in relation to your hip is pointing straight in a straight line forward, and there is 90 degrees at the knee joint. And then the left leg is going to go to the side with the foot at the back, and the line from the hip to the knee is going to point straight to the side. Yeah, so seen from the side, it will look like this. Right leg in front, left leg to the side. So we face in front. And then we're going to walk the hands forward, plant the hands, and then push to get a nice lift. So try to avoid rounding of the back. Keep the bone of the chest lifting away from the abdomen and the shoulder blades moving down the back. Now from here you can either stay here, and if you can keep that straight line on the back with the chest lifted, then we're going to lower from the hips, coming to the forearms. Relax and lengthen the back of the neck, and then take nice and deep breaths. And then carefully come into your hands and push up. And then we do the other side. So I'm just going to turn to this side. Left leg in front of you, right leg to the side. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. If you find this pose is uncomfortable, shorten the distance between, or close the angle at the knees on both legs. And maybe even close the legs a little towards each other. Yeah? And then we turn towards the front, come into the hands, lift the chest. If you find this really hard, you can come into the two bricks or the two books. And you may just want to remain here, continuing to lengthen as you breathe and as you hold the pose. Otherwise, you can, if you can, you're going to go all the way into the forearms. Make sure your chest continues to lift as the belly lengthens. And then come into your hands. You can take a deep breath to come up. It might help you a little. And then carefully undo the pose. Good. So now we're going to cross the legs to come into a cross-legged position. Try to cross the legs nicely at the shins rather than at the ankles, so you have a little bit more of a closed posture. And then we're going to take a forward bend. So you're going to come into the hands, lift the chest. And you might feel like this is just enough for you. But remember, try not to round the back too much. Try to fall from the hips. Going forward from the hips, walking the hands forward as far as you comfortably can. Releasing the head. And then breathing nice and deep. Closing the eyes to help you with your concentration. Then with an inhalation, pushing up. Now we just change the crossing of the legs. And then we come forward. So remember, don't push it. If being up here is just enough, you might feel that stretch at the back, and that's just all you need. If you can, go forward. Feel the stretch in the back. Feel the torsion, the folding from the hips. Relax the back of the neck and lengthen and breathe. And then with an inhalation, pushing with your arms to come back. Now we take another sitting posture. We're going to come into the shins or the knees. Then we're going to bring the feet together, extend the tops of your feet, separate your heels, and sit on your heels. If you find this posture really uncomfortable, don't worry, it's not unusual. What you need to do is just sit here, take a couple of breaths, undo the pose, release, maybe even turn your feet to release any tension, and keep repeating. Couple of breaths, you sit here, release, and repeat. And if you do that every day, eventually you will be able to hold the pose just a little bit longer. The longer you do it, the more comfortable you will be. Now from here we take a forward bend, so you separate the knees. You don't have to separate the knees, but it makes it a little easier. And then you come into your hands. Remember, keeping your chest lifted. We're going to fold forward from the hips. Now for a comfortable, relaxed, very easy stretch, you're going to release the forearms to the floor and gently release the forehead to the floor. For a more active stretch, you will take it more into your shoulders. We're going to press into the hands and extend the arms. And we're going to rotate the arms so that the biceps turn slightly towards the sky. And the head may not touch the floor, but that's okay. If you want a little bit more on your shoulders, so this is already working on your hips and your lower back. But if you want to activate your shoulders a little more, we're going to come either into the fingertips, if you don't have the two bricks, or into the bricks. And you can put the bricks at whatever height you feel is good. I'm going to go on the highest height to get a nice stretch. So remember, pressing through the hands, extending the arms, and turning the biceps towards the sky. So notice that if I'm doing the bricks, what I do is I grab the bricks and then I walk the bricks to find the full stretch. Back of the neck long. Release your breath and take nice and deep breaths. Just take a moment to concentrate on your body as well. Just feeling the stretch. Feeling the stretch in the hips and the lower back. Make sure you're not pushing it. And then to come back, you can keep the bricks there and bring the hands down one at a time, and then push yourself out of the pose. Good. For the next pose, we're going to come into hands and knees. We don't need the bricks. So make sure when you're on hands and knees, your hands are flush to the floor, meaning that they're flat, and the fingers are spread. And then you want your shoulders right above your wrists. You want your spine nice and long, and the knee and the hips right beneath your knees. And then from here we do what's called the cat and cow pose, or the cow and cat pose. So we round the back, head releases, and the tailbone points in the direction of the floor. This is the cat pose. And then on the opposite version, you arch in the other direction. So this is extension of the spine. So you want to pull the hands slightly back to help you bring the chest slightly forward. Keep your shoulders down and look slightly in front or slightly up. So this is the inhalation. And on the exhalation, you round like an angry cat. Release. And then we do a few of those. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one, inhale. Exhale. Now the next variation of this pose that I really like is you're also doing this cat and cow pose version, but you're going to the side. So you extend your spine and then you go to one side, then you arch the spine and then you go to the other side. So it's like you're moving your spine in circles. Yeah? You inhale as you extend the spine, and you exhale as you flex your spine. So I call this the cat in the washing machine. Needless to say, I have never put a cat in a washing machine. I don't have a cat and I will never intend to do that. I think the vision is quite funny. So we go in circles, and then we go in the other direction. Inhale to extend to the side, exhale to flex to the other side. Last one. Good, and then carefully release. And then we're ready for the next pose. So for the next pose, we're going to come into the hands and knees. That's the starting position. And then we're going to lift the hips. Make sure your feet are hip width apart, and we're going to extend at the shoulders by sending the hips to the sky and the chest in the direction of your feet. This is the downward dog position. So just like, it's very similar to the cat-cow position actually. You want the same action of the arms, pressing through the hands to extend and then turning the biceps towards the sky. Get a good stretch in the shoulders. And if you find that it's really hard to extend the legs, that might cause your spine to curve, then bend the knees and send your tailbone a little further towards the sky. Relax your head and take a couple of deep breaths. Feel yourself balanced well on both hands and well on both feet. Now here's a little tip that will help you get a little bit more extension at the backs of your legs. You're going to take one heel to the floor as you lift the other one, and then you're going to switch sides. So you're going to inhale as we do one side, and exhale as we do the other. Then bring both heels to center, and then another tip for the chest and the shoulders. Just going to gently bounce your chest towards your feet. It'll give you an extra stretch at the armpits, at the shoulders, at the chest. Make sure you try not to hold any tension on your neck. Do a few more. Now, in my case, if there's two postures that we like to do for lower back pain, are this one, which we already did, the child pose. It's perhaps one of my favorites. And our last one we're going to do today, which is the standing forward bend. So you want to come into your feet. You can start from standing if you want. Make sure that your feet are hip width apart. It will make it a little bit easier. If you can have your feet together too. Yep. And the more you bend the knees, the easier it will be for your lower back. If you have stiff hamstrings, you will find it really difficult to fold, and you will want to round the back to be able to reach more. Don't concentrate on reaching fingers to the floor. Concentrate on connecting your belly to your thighs, for which case you might need to fold and bend at the knees. So remember, belly to your thighs. If you can't touch the floor, sometimes when I have lower back pain and I just hang here, it makes it a little bit painful on the lower back. So you support yourself by using something. So as I hold myself, the back will release, and I will be able to go deeper and 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 deeper. Yeah, but don't force it. Just let the weight of gravity and your support determine how far you want to go and how deep you want to stretch to be. If you now find yourself hanging and you're comfortable, then you may want to shorten your arms by holding the elbows opposite side and then tucking the chin slightly in and then just letting the body dangle. If you want, you can just very gently swing side to side. If you're quite flexible and comfortable in the pose, you may want to hold your ankles or maybe even take the forearms to your calves. And then, as you pull yourself into the forward fold, you extend the legs. Keep your shoulders away from your ears and keep your chest bone reaching forward towards the floor. Now a little added variation to this pose. We do a little bit of a twist. So you separate your feet so they're more or less the width of your mat. If you don't have a mat, kind of like 3 or 4 hands, just a little bit wider than your hips. And then you place one hand on the floor or on the support. And then you take one hand to the hip and then you actively twist so you can turn from the waist and the trunk, and the elbow points towards the sky and eventually reaching behind. If you want, you can extend the arm, but try not to reach your arm behind you, but rather the shoulder behind you. Get a nice twist. And to make it a little easier, you can bend. So in this case, we have right hand on the floor and the right leg can bend if you find it a little difficult. If you want to polish the pose, extend both legs and try not to sink into your right hip. So lift your right hip and turn actively. Then carefully release and do the other side. Left hand to the floor or to the support. You might want to bend your left knee and then turn. Hand at the hip, elbow reaching behind, or hand to the sky, palm facing out. And if you want to polish the pose, extend both legs and then lift your left hip and then actively twist a little more. Now the hand that's on the floor needs to really connect wherever it is so that you can push, and that will help you get a really nice twist. With an exhalation, carefully release. And come out of the pose, come back to the floor, whichever way you want, and then come to lie on your back. I'm going to close the video in just a couple of moments, but I will advise you to stay here for a few more minutes, 3, 4, maybe even 10 minutes if you like. The longer you stay, the more you will benefit. Back to the first pose, feet on the floor, back of the neck long, arms resting. Then we're going to release the breath again. And then again, all you need to do is bring your attention to the belly. Allow the breath now to move freely without your control. And just watch the belly rise and fall. Rise and fall.